Hi, everyone. This is Scarlett Johnson. This is my show, Unleashed. It's been a while because it's been Christmas vacation. We are now, tomorrow is New Year's Eve, believe it or not. It's crazy. And I'm back. I'm so glad to be joined by Evita Duffy-Alfonso and Michael Alfonso. We were going to talk at AmFest, but with like how many people were there? It just tens
30,
of thousands.
40,000, yeah.
Oh my gosh. 33, yeah. So the internet connection wasn't so great. And so I'm really glad to catch up with you guys and talk about some of the things that I wanted to while you were at AmFest, which is Turning Point's big event every year. And it was just a blockbuster event this year. Hard to keep up with, just star-studded event. On top of that, they behind the scenes, and you can tell me more about that, there are booths everywhere. So all organizations from across the country, national, local organizations, grassroots organizations are there, talking, communicating, networking. I know Moms for Liberty was there. Michael, you had a chance to stop by our booth. So I'm going to just let you guys talk about what was going on at AmFest, what you saw, especially through the eyes of like Gen Z. And also one of my favorite sessions was one in which Evita, your mom, was on stage talking about what's near and dear to my heart, which is having a family and what that looks like, the advice given to young conservatives right now. So I'm going to let you guys talk about what was your experience at AmFest.
It was crazy. I think, some people did have some questions of what were they going to put on now that Charlie was gone. And Andrew and Tyler, the two guys who are really in charge around there, they put on an exceptional event. 30,000 people at least. I mean, they had to turn people away. The ticketing, it was sold out before anyone even got there. It was absolutely an amazing experience, and we were lucky to be a part of it. And there were so many booths, like you mentioned. So it's not just about Turning Point. They bring together so many different organizations around the country to network, to get together, and to figure out, hey, how are we going to make 2026 work so that we can finally get some of Trump's executive orders into law?
Yeah, that's true. And I think there was Now, as someone who was watching and looking at social media, I know that there's a lot of talk about, oh, who's speaking, some of the issue, I would say the kind of these like soap opera-esque
Oh yeah,
gossipy
there's a
kind of
lot of
issues.
drama. A lot of drama at AmFest. So Michael called it. He said it was conservative Disneyland when we
No,
first got there.
conservative Thanksgiving,
Oh,
because
conservative
everyone was
Thanksgiving.
fighting on stage.
Yeah, well, it's conservative Disneyland and conservative Thanksgiving because it's right. Everybody's coming together, and there's a lot of different ideas about where the party should go, where the movement should go. How do you define America first? Tucker Carlson has one definition, Ben Shapiro has another, and they sort of live battled it out on stage at AmFest. And so the perception on social media, I would say, is actually very accurate to what was happening on the ground there. What everybody was talking about as we were walking past one another was the drama that kept unfolding. The initial Ben Shapiro speech, then Tucker Carlson, then Megyn Kelly, Steve Bannon. It was just kind of an all-out, I would kind of argue, a war. And it was actually interesting because it's what Charlie Kirk really wanted. I mean, he, for his entire career, always invited each of these different disparate voices to his events to kind of really, I get, debate and battle it out and decide who do we want to be. And so a lot of people are like, oh, this is really bad. I don't know. I kind of liked to see everybody showcase what their opinions were. The only downside, I would say, is that there wasn't a ton of focus on 2026, and the influencer drama, I think, kind of overshadowed the real battle, who the real enemy is, which is, of course, the left, the people who killed Charlie Kirk and the people who celebrated when he died.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm thinking about the founding of our country, and that we had all of these different representatives groups coming together, and our founders didn't sit peacefully. Like there was all out battles. I mean, the Federalist Papers are a result of that. Like the anti-federalists, the Federalists duking it out. Like what is our country going to look like? And openly. But at the end, there was compromise. At the end, they came together. They, we formed this perfect union. But it's okay. In fact, I think our founding fathers would say, yeah, debate, have like talk about things, don't just hide it. And that's what makes us different, I think, than the Democrat Party, that we openly have, we have individuals, we have different ideas, we can debate them. But there has to come a point, and I think that's what Charlie Kirk was about. Let's debate, but at the end of the day, we have to come together and unite against our common enemy, which is tyranny and oppression and communism in all of its insidious forms. And if we don't have that coming together, then instead, then our revolution looks more like what happened in France than it did in America. So I think, yeah, let's have these debates, and this is a place to have them, but there has to be that coming together. And like you said, influencer wars, I think that there might be some influencers that could make more money by having the division. And so that's where we have to be wise. We, the people, have to be wise about who we're listening to and what we're doing. Because if they're not, if they wanted to, and they're not ending with, now we have to come together, I would be weary of a person that just wants to continually just throw gasoline on the fire and doesn't want to eventually have a peace.
And to that point, Scarlett, Michael and we both listened to Ben Shapiro in college and high school. Like, facts don't care about your feelings. He's somebody that is a part, like any Gen Zer who was like first reading to get into like political podcasting, like Ben Shapiro is the OG. Like, he's somebody that all of us listen to. But there was something that he said right before AmFest that really bothered me. He gave a speech at the Heritage Foundation where he said, we need to have ideological border patrol. And essentially what he meant by that was, we need to excommunicate people from the conservative movement, who essentially he personally disagrees with. And to your point, Scarlett, I think that's not at all what should be happening. I'm happy to see the debate. I'm happy to see you guys battle it out. I'm not interested in any way having a war with an individual. We say you're not allowed to speak at AmFest. You're not allowed to have a platform. You can't, you can't speak. That's not what America's about. That's not what Charlie Kirk was about. That's not what's going to help us win the midterms in 2026. I think it's very short-sighted. And like I said, I don't dislike Ben Shapiro. He's like a huge part of my, political awakening as like a 19, 18-year-old. But that messaging I think is very destructive and not something that I'm interested in.
And I will say that just from being there, the people that I talked to, they seem to understand that this was an in-house fight, that this, we can have our disagreements here in Arizona where we're all Republicans, we're all friends, but they knew and they were energized for 2026. I mean, anyone who's talking about a blue wave clearly didn't see all those young people who are not just ready to vote. They're going to go out there and knock doors for candidates. They're going to make sure that these people get across the line in tough districts, in tough states. And frankly, I couldn't be more excited for what's to come in 2026.
Yeah. And so I wouldn't even say more influencer, but show host Steve Deace that I follow a lot. He said, yeah, there was all of this stuff, but let me tell you what I saw on the ground. I saw so many young people that were respectful. They loved our country. They weren't, these radicalized, like far right extremists. They were respectful, earnest, Christian, and they understood. They saw what was happening, and they're not just kind of gullible sheep that are just going to go along with whatever Tucker Carlson says, or whatever Ben Shapiro says. Like they are going to make their own opinions. And I think we do a disservice when we think that young people are just, they can't think for themselves. They can, and they just have to be presented a lot of different opinions, different facts, and then kind of come up with their own conclusions. We don't need to protect them from everything and shield them. We need to expose them so that they are equipped. And that's, as conservatives, especially a conservative mom, that's been the fight of my life, just constantly trying to battle the left. And now I don't need the extra burden of having to battle the right too.
Well, I think, you really hit the nail on the head with saying all these young people are grounded in Christianity. Every single person I met was either Catholic, Lutheran, you name it. And that's where it's important. The truth is back, and it's better than ever. They know it's out there. They might not know what it is, but they're ready to find it. And they know they're not going to be these radical young people who, tell you men can be women and women can be men. No, they know the truth is out there. So when they have these fights, these in-house fights to decide, well, should we be, giving more money to this country, less to this one? Okay, sure. But they are all grounded in Christianity, and no one I saw there was a radical in any way.
They're also very tolerant of different religions. And also, we've got our Jewish conservatives, and they are rooted in Judeo-Christian values. And even if you're agnostic, but there's usually something in there. They are rooted in Western civilization, Judeo-Christian ethic, and maybe they're not associated with any particular religion, but there's something that's calling to them. I think that there's something that they understand to be true, that there is truth, and that Western civilization is worth preserving. And the foundational principles of Western civilization are the Judeo-Christian ethics. You cannot separate these two things. I know there's some that believe you can, but a lot of them, even my friend James Lindsay, has come to understand, like, I used to think that you could separate these things, but I've come to realize that they are one and the same. Like, you cannot have our government, our federalist constitutional republic, and remove our Judeo-Christian principles. Like, they are they are intertwined. One cannot survive without the other. And that's why it's so important. While we are tolerant of other religions, we maintain that Judeo-Christian ethic. Like, we are a Judeo-Christian country. We are built upon those principles. While we are open and tolerant, we aren't so open-minded that our brains are falling out. Like that, and that's what I think has happened on the left. And I think it's infiltrated into conservatism. It had, at least, where you had people, a lot of them have left, that believed that we had to be so open-minded that we started to lose. We started to give away our country because we were trying so hard to appease. And it turns out with these Marxists, it's never enough.
Yeah. Well, and Scarlett, I mean, if you look at every piece of our founding, I mean, like the 10 Commandments radically informed, the Bill of Rights. Everything that we have, all of the things that make America special, I think individual freedom and respect for human life being, a big part of it, is rooted in, like you said, the Christian Western civilization that informed the founding fathers' creation of the Declaration of Independence, of the Constitution. Charlie Kirk understood that. That's why he has Turning Point Faith, and he has all these young people intertwining their faith with their politics for a reason. And you're right, we're tolerant of other religions, and the reason we're tolerant of other religions is because we are founded as a Christian country. Like the founding fathers said, this country was made for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate for any other. This is because they understood, if you have a populace that is immoral, you can't have a society with all of the freedoms that we're afforded. Society will start to fall apart. And that's what happens in leftist societies. Look at every blue city in America. They're completely disintegrating. Moral decay, crime. I mean, it's disastrous because I think they've lost the compass that is their faith in their personal lives. So Charlie Kirk understood this. Our founding fathers understood this. That's why Turning Point USA Faith is was such a big part of the conference.
So you could say there were some open debates between, that you could see: Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Steve Bannon, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you were there. Would you say all of these people love America?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I would say they all want to put America first. Like, I mean, this is like something Michael and I talked. I mean, it's like the whole purpose of his campaign. It's like, I'm running to put Wisconsin and America first, and I genuinely feel like everyone that was there, they want to do that as well, which is a huge deal. Because I think we've had a lot of leaders who don't want to put America first, who have a lot of other interests that are not the American people, and that's been, I think, and probably the number one contributing factor to every single problem we're facing right now.
And so I think that a lot, everyone we mentioned, they have an audience. And so I think if we, the people, the audience, those that watch, if we just continue to make it clear to all of them that at the end of the day, we want to see you guys come together and talk more about 2026 and bringing us all together. I think that will resonate, because if their message depends on an audience. So I think we have to have a stake in this. And so we have to make sure that we don't get caught up in the drama, and that we keep sending the message that we love you. It's like we're part of a family, and we don't want to pick sides. We don't want to see a divorce. We want mom and dad to stay together. And so, like, we want you guys to find a way to work together for what is best for our country, and that is for us to not lose in 2026. It would be disastrous. It would be disastrous if we lost the House, if we lost the Senate, if we lost both, we lost the governor's races, state House races, like in Wisconsin. This would be bad for our country. So now, as we come upon a new year, we've had the airing of the grievances.
Yeah.
Now let's just come together. Did you get a sense of that towards the end of AmFest, that there was a coming together?
Yeah, and I think it was really symbolized with Nicki Minaj, believe it or not. Like someone who, if you would have told me when I was 11 or 12, listening to her music, she's going to be a giant MAGA supporter, I never would have believed it. And I think it's important to recognize that everybody understands the real battle is between good and evil. And no one on that stage was evil. Everyone is trying to seek the good, and they're all ready to get behind anyone that is on the side of good. And I think it's going to be a very, very good time come 2026.
So for those who weren't paying attention, so Erica Kirk was on stage with Nicki Minaj, and boy, that would not be on my bingo card. But what did you see? What was the message? How was it received?
I think the simplest way to put it is that Nicki Minaj, who would have been sort of center left 20 years ago, has been completely abandoned by the Democrat Party. And they are looking for someone with any semblance of sanity to say, look, we maybe we believe in some more social programs, but this whole open border stuff is ridiculous. I mean, we have crime that's shooting off the charts in every major city, and it's a large portion of it is people who aren't even citizens. And I think Nicki Minaj showed that just how radical the Democrat Party has gotten.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the reason she was on stage was because of what she was saying about Nigerian Christians. She was standing up for the Christians who are being persecuted in Nigeria, calling on the Trump admin and the UN to protect them. And so that's why she was initially invited, but she's kind of always been a little bit of a free thinker. And I would never classify Nicki Minaj as like a traditional conservative. And there were a lot of people who thought it was bizarre and wrong, and a bad call on the part of Erica Kirk to invite her. And I actually think the exact opposite, for the same reason I think we should not be excommunicating people from the right. If somebody is saying things that we agree with, let's bring them on. Let's have a conversation. I mean, let's, and especially somebody who's as big of a cultural influencer as Nicki Minaj, of course we should hear them out, and bring them into the fold. And then maybe she'll change her minds on some other things as well. I think it was a wonderful thing. She said something really important on the stage. She said, we can't let people who hate Christians rule over us. We can't let them be in charge of our government. And that I thought was so important and so profound, because it's true. We have a lot of people in our government, in the halls of Congress, former presidents, who seem to really hate the Christian founding of our country, and have explicitly persecuted Christians with it. The Biden admin called traditional Catholics, right, extremists, right-wing Nazis, whatever they were. The FBI was going after them and infiltrating their churches. This is real. It's a valid threat, and she articulated it really well. And I'm glad she was on the stage to do that.
No, I agree. And think of the following that she has, and the presence that she has, the millions and millions of people that look up to her. And when she was on stage saying, boys be boys, girls be girls, and talking about her Christian faith, but the influence that she has, when she said it's okay to not be okay with boys in the girls' bathroom, boys in girls' sports, that is huge. It's just so huge. It is such a cultural phenomenon. And the response that she has received from the left, and we can't, I think it's hard for us to even understand, because she went out there on stage with Erica Kirk and basically opened herself up to so much criticism. And I think it's very brave. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and there's a line where Dumbledore says, it takes courage to stand up to your enemies, but it takes even more courage to stand up to your friends. And for her to stand up to her peers, colleagues, and the entire, pop culture, go on stage with Erica Kirk and defend Christianity and talk about some of the cultural battles that we're dealing with in this country in a common sense way is a big deal. Now, that doesn't mean that I say all of her music is great. Everything she's ever done, I'm looking over all of that. It's just acknowledging that she did something very good, and her ability to reach millions and millions of especially young people cannot be underestimated. And so, especially as a Christian, I mean, to react against her in a way where we're criticizing Erica Kirk, we're criticizing Turning Point. How dare you have someone like that on stage? I just think of Jesus, who, you know, he was with, those are the people that he was ministering to. He didn't go into the synagogues, and he didn't go into the temples and hang out there. He was with the people, and he said, you go and sin no more. I'm not going to take this left-wing view of Jesus, like, just all tolerance. It's just that he wanted to be with the people that didn't know Christ, and to tell them, go and sin no more. So
Yeah.
I liked it. So what is your opinion of Erica Kirk, how she handled everything? Because you will see, of course, those that love her and then those that are criticizing her, and that she's not being the right kind of widow, I guess, which I think is ridiculous. But what is your opinion of the way she handled herself through the whole event?
You know, I don't think anybody who's not a widow has any idea what it would be like to lose your husband, who's your biggest supporter, who's your best friend, who handles an entire business. She stepped into this position in less than 2 weeks, and she's handling it unbelievably well. I mean, frankly, the courage she shows, that's what a real woman is. You know, we have this idea, Kamala Harris is the perfect example of women. No, Erica Kirk is. She steps up and does what needs to be done when the time comes. It's quite inspiring.
Yeah, well, and I think Erica Kirk everybody grieves differently. Like, I have no idea how I would respond if he died, let alone like if I had, two kids, or 3 kids, and it was a single mom. It's just so. I think everybody grieves differently, and Erica Kirk has said that she's somebody who's really kind of poured herself into her husband's work, which is Turning Point USA, which is what he dedicated his life to. And I completely understand that. I'm sure she's there for her children. We're not seeing that, which is, I think, appropriate that we're not seeing that, because we don't have to be like involved in her personal life, but we are seeing all of the time and effort that she's putting into Turning Point USA. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's what her husband would have wanted. I frankly wouldn't trust Turning Point USA with anybody other than Erica, because she was Charlie's closest confidant when he was alive. That's what a wife is, right? It's your best friend. It's the person who you tell everything to. And so I think it makes perfect sense. And I think she's doing whatever she can to keep his legacy and what he built alive. And she's doing a beautiful job, because Turning Point USA has raised a lot of money. And they've put on an incredible AmFest, and they're doing a ton of on-the-ground work to help campaigns like Michael, who's endorsed by Turning Point USA, but so many others, to make sure that everything that Charlie built stays alive. So I have nothing bad to say about Erica. Also, apparently her hair is real, which I'm just like, I can't believe that. I thought they were extensions, but she really does have that really long, beautiful blonde hair. So I don't know. I'm in awe of her, and I'm praying for her.
Yes. First of all that everyone sees are these hours that she's on stage. You don't see the countless hours where she is with her kids. Yeah. So you can't, taking her kids with her, because they're young enough, they can travel with her. And so it made perfect sense to me that as her husband's book was released, that she did his interviews, because this was his final work. And who better to go do those interviews than her? And she didn't, like, these are all, and you know, when you work in media, these are all pre-scheduled, it's all done. She was simply going out and talking about his book. She's also a young widow who needs to support her family now. And this is the way that they are going to be supported. So this is like promoting the book, making sure that it's out there, making sure that the copies sell. Like, that's now her job. She now has to take on that responsibility. That's a huge responsibility. And I think that I would do exactly the same thing, even in grief, that if my husband had this final work, and this was the last thing on earth, that was the last words that the world was ever going to see, then I would want no one other than myself out there talking about it. And while doing that, she had to dispel so many lies, so many rumors, and only she could do it. I think no one would believe anyone else. So she had to go out there and talk. And then she had to arrange some difficult conversations because she's trying to put plug holes in and stop things from festering and becoming bigger issues. But I think that this was her husband's legacy, and she is trying to preserve it. And I would imagine that they had many conversations where he indicated that she would be the person that would need to step into this role for him. And that's what she's doing. But just because you see me right now talking, that doesn't, I'm going to end this conversation. You guys are going to end this conversation. Then we're going to spend the rest of our day with our families, doing dishes, cooking, doing all the mundane things, all reading books to kids, taking care of family members. You won't see all of that, and you shouldn't see all of that. But so you can't judge and say, oh, all you do is talk politics. Well, no, of course not. But this is a job. This is a calling. But then there's a whole nother life that happens. So I think that she is young and beautiful, and there's a lot of jealousy. And I think the left, then the things that she says, I think kind of, they of course anger the left, because she talks about femininity and masculinity and putting motherhood, first, trying to find balance. And I look forward to her having more conversations about how difficult it is to be a mother and to have to work as well. And I think those are conversations that a lot of American women want to hear, because this is the struggle that they always have. Now, Evita, Michael, that this is something that your mom, Evita, talked about on stage, which I appreciated. So if you could talk a little bit about that, about how hard it is to be mom and dad and work, but you can do it. You just have to find ways you have to be creative and find employers that are going to work with you and your family.
Yeah, I mean, my mom is always sad. I mean, in our house, my mom was a stay-at-home mom for like 10 years, which was awesome, and I love that. But then after my dad got elected into Congress, she started to work. And she always made sure that we were the number one priority. So she didn't take a job where she didn't have any kind of flexibility. She was just spokesperson for an organization called Libre Initiative. She started to become a contributor at Fox News. What she does right now is awesome. She's the weekend host of Fox and Friends, and it's I mean, it's a little bit difficult to balance, but she's up at 3 a.m. as she goes to Fox News, and she's back at 11, 12. So she's got a large part of the day with us on the weekend, which is great. And she was able to kind of stay in politics and have a career, and at the same time raise 9 children, which I think is incredible, and a testament that women can do anything that they really want. I mean, they have their dreams, you know, can come true, and you can still be a mom, and it's okay. And that's what I've taken away from her example. And there is some give and take. Like, I won't say like, can you be the partner at the law firm and have a super demanding job and also be really involved in your kid's life? Well, maybe not. I mean, I'm not here to like, you know, sell a fantasy, but there are things that you can do to, you know, still have that piece of yourself, the career and kids. And she's done that, I think, beautifully. I think a really great example is she had a show called Fox Noticias, Spanish language show that she did 3 days a week for the last year. She just gave that up because it just became a lot of work with my dad being gone as Secretary of Transportation all week long in DC. So sacrifices have to be made, but
Yep.
it doesn't mean that they're not worth it, because I think, you know, she's always will say that the most fulfilling thing for her is her family, is her children.
And I think you can have, sometimes you can have it all, but not all at once. And I think you do that. Sacrifices, like you can try something out and wait, that's too much. But another door will open if something else will arise. But I think that taking time off to be a full-time mom and then go back, then you can come back in and something else will open up if you are persistent and you know what you want. I 100% agree with that. I think I am an example of that. You know, I never dreamed I would be here now after taking a long period of time off to raise my kids. But I think with new media, I think with with a lot of the tools that we have, there's a lot of different options. And like you said, I'm not going to say that you can be full-time, a surgeon and a female, and balance both perfectly. You might have to just rework, take time off, go back, lots of different things, but the options are available. And we want, and Michael, you're running for Congress. I think you understand this. What are some things that you think about, like how can the federal government in any ways help to incentivize people having families again?
Yeah, well, something, Evita and I have talked about a lot, and we think would be a great idea is, how about tax breaks for families? I mean, every kid get a tax break. Having money follow students instead of the school districts, then you could incentivize people to homeschool. And I mean, some people will say, oh, it's ripe for fraud, but it's no worse than what's going on in Minneapolis. So what are we so worried about? And I think as long as we have people in office, some people say they're leaders, they're representatives, but as long as we have representatives in office who are championing the family, making sure that that is the primary concern of every bit of legislation passed. How will this affect American families? We're going to start making some good steps.
Well, so I do want to talk about Minneapolis, Minnesota, because your proximity, I think maybe some people don't understand how close you are in Wisconsin to that. But first to talk about, I know we've discussed before, like populism. And I think we need to get back to that we as conservatives, the populist message is important, that we want to promote families. And like President Trump has, I think, done so well, is that we are conservatives, but we need to there are some ways that we can utilize federal policy and incentivize the things that we want, the way that, like you said, the left incentivizes what they want. We need to incentivize the things, the values that help America and that help our people.
Yeah. And, it could be as simple. We don't even have to incentivize it. We just have to stop de-incentivizing it. Like, for example, if you buy a house and you sell it within 2 years, you have to pay capital gains. Why not make it so that if you're a smaller purchaser, you can buy homes and flip them? That'll help make housing a lot more affordable. And for families, let's stop taking so much of their hard-earned money and give them money so that they can have more kids. I mean, frankly, we actually have a fertility crisis. We don't have enough babies in America. It's not the opposite. You know, some of these crazy people on the left will tell you every kid you're having, it causes more global warming. That's ridiculous. If you don't have 3 kids, you're falling below the replacement rate.
Well, and another big problem that we have right now, Scarlett, and I think the Trump admin is starting to do some reforms in this area, but we have tons of people here on H-1B visas. I'm talking about legal immigration, and it's driving down the value of labor. So there was a time in America where you could be a married couple with children and only one person had to work. You could be a single income family, and that was completely attainable, affordable. That's not the case anymore. Everything in America has gone up, but especially the essentials in life. So I'm talking about rent and home ownership and healthcare and education. It's out of control. And on top of it, you have the value of labor being driven down by mass legal immigration. And these are not, the H-1B visa program was supposed to be for the Elon Musks of the world. They're going to bring in the best and the brightest. We're bringing in entry-level accountants from India, doing jobs that should be going to American citizens. So it's a huge problem on top of all the people who are here illegally, who the Trump admin is trying to get out of the country. These are things that dramatically impact working class Americans. And the left, they claim to love, the working class citizen, the families, and they also are doing things that are literally destroying them, forcing moms to go out and work and, not be home with their children because they literally can't afford to be home with their children.
And Wisconsin's attorney general actually was part of a lawsuit against the Trump administration to remove the fees for H-1B visa applications. So Trump makes a step to make it harder for these companies to just outsource their labor. And our AG in Wisconsin is part of the movement. He claims to care about working class people, but he's one of the first ones to jump out there and protect big businesses.
That's Josh Call, yes. And my good friend Eric Toney is challenging him in 2026. So if you're in Wisconsin, there's a chance to have things different. I mean, Josh Call has done so many things wrong, but the handling of crime scene kits, rape kits, all of that is it's just horrendous. I've been reading about that, and it's awful. But let's talk now about, I think a lot of people watching this, they are in tune to what's happening in Minnesota with the fraud and abuse from the Somalian population because of there's Medicaid fraud, there's fraud in daycares, like money. It's a very complicated situation. And now we're seeing that even in places like Washington State, this same type of fraud is occurring. So I would guess it's everywhere. But it was first discovered in Minnesota. So if you guys could talk about that. You're from a district that really borders Minnesota. A lot of refugees from Minnesota have moved to Western Wisconsin areas.
Also, Somalians have moved to Wisconsin too.
Yes, they have. And there's groups that they've with flyers and different programs, they've been trying to attract that population. So you mentioned a few things, but that affects housing. That affects the cost of daycare. When you've got subsidies coming in, that means that they're getting all this government money. They can raise the prices, and it can become unaffordable for families to put their child or children in daycare, even part-time. And if they can't do that, they struggle to work. And I have had many conversations with women that want more kids, but say, I can't afford childcare already. Like I would love more kids, but I can't afford to stay home, can't afford childcare, I can't afford to buy a bigger house. And these are the limitations on growing their families. And these are the things that we do have to reconcile.
Yeah, this is the epitome of America Last policies. You have governors like Tim Walz, who, it's hard to say that this is anything short of, I won't look at your fraud as long as you keep voting for me. But this is frankly a bigger issue. This is what happens when we fight these regime change wars in countries that don't affect us in any way, and then we import the third world after that. I mean, it's such a breath of fresh air to have a president in office who actually understands that these regime change wars don't do anything for us. They actually end up making it worse for us. So for the Somalians, that happened in the 90s. You know, now we have billions and billions of dollars of fraud. And with the Afghanistan debacle, we just had a national shoot 2 National Guard members, a month ago? I mean, this is the kind of nightmare that comes with America Last policies.
So what was the Medicaid fraud that we saw like in Minnesota? What was that like? How could that, I want to know, because I want to see how could that even affect Wisconsin, because I know that it is.
Yeah, so when these people are getting subsidies all over the place for different programs. So for example, the most popular one we're seeing is the Leering Center. It should be learning, but they forgot the N. And somebody showed up, Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old reporter, shows up with a camera. He's not even really a reporter. He's kind of a YouTube guy. He just, asked to see what's going on in here. And a daycare center that has 90 people in it, not a single one was there, apparently. And, these are the kind of front operations that are probably happening all over the country. And because Democrats have looked at them as such consistent voting blocks, they just turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah, whether it's the Leering Center or the Medicaid fraud, it's all impacting American taxpayers. It's fraud against the American people, not the state. I don't even like viewing it that way, because it's literally us who are being defrauded. And we don't even know how widespread it is. Minnesota has kind of been like a little flashpoint, a case study, but there are allegations that it is much more widespread all across the country. And we're going to find out. And I hope that the Trump admin has a plan to arrest and prosecute everyone involved, including the politicians who knew about it and let it happen. Many of them, most of them, all of them, Democrats. I hope that's coming, because it's not going to happen under a Democrat regime if President Trump is out of office. Now's our chance to actually stop this. The other thing that I'll mention, Scarlett, I just don't see widespread fraud and abuse of this scale of any other group who's been here for 400 years, let's say. These are individuals who came into this country very recently. They don't have a love for America. They haven't been here that long. And that, I think, has incentivized this complete fraud of our system, the robbing of the American public, because they don't love the American public. And in fact, Ilhan Omar, a Somali representative from Minnesota, says openly that her job as member of Congress is to make life better for Somalia. That's literally what she says. So we have people who are very disloyal to our country, not loyal at all. And they're here, and most of them actually, Scarlett, they're not illegals. They're not, they're not here fraudulently. They can't be deported. Most of them are real citizens of the United States, thanks to birthright citizenship, which was never an intention of the founding fathers. There needs to be a Supreme Court decision made to get rid of birthright citizenship, because that's a huge reason why we have all of these refugees come to this country, but then create decades and decades of problems that we can't fix, because again, their children and their grandchildren are allowed to just stay. It's untenable.
No other country has citizenship like that. It's a lot harder to become a citizen. And I would say that a lot of people, especially if they're new immigrants, they are being used by organizations that are grabbing this money, funneling it. And as we're seeing in Washington State, it's even being funneled into races now. They're taking this fraud money and then pumping it into campaigns for Democrats, which of course, so
of
I
course
think
it's Democrats.
are being used. They are being used. They come here and then they're getting they're getting some benefits. But I would venture to say that the real beneficiaries we have yet to learn. I think that there are organizations that are siphoning off this money, and it's propping up a whole system.
Yeah, and I mean that's what happened with Doge. I mean, they start looking into these NGOs, and you find out
Yeah.
we're funding Sesame Street in Afghanistan. That's real. Like, I'm not just making this up.
Oh, I think it was Syria. I think it was Sesame Street.
Oh, Syria, somewhere in the Middle East, Sesame Street. I mean, come on. If the American government, if they have enough money to be doing all of these crazy things abroad, they have enough money to be giving tax credits to families.
Yeah. And making health insurance more affordable by getting the government out of it. I think there's just a misconception, and I deal with this all the time, especially with young people, but even people my age, where they think the government involvement will help lower costs, and all it does, it's just a part of the problem. It inflates the costs. And that's why when I said the government can incentivize, you were right to say, or de-incentivize, just removing the government out of the private sector and letting the free market work, and the government operating as a governing force, a protecting, to make sure that the private sector isn't defrauding, monopolizing. That's the role of government. The government is supposed to make sure the free markets are actually free markets, and instead I think politicians are being bought off, and I think that that's why we've got this system that just, it needs, there needs to be a lot of change, and there's going to be a lot of resistance to that because a lot of people have gotten wealthy off of making things unaffordable for your average American.
Yeah, and I think young people, not all of them, frankly, no one at Turning Point has this misconception, but a lot of young people, especially on the college campuses, don't really understand what a right is. So, for example, I love the Second Amendment. I don't think there should be any restrictions whatsoever. But you don't see anyone on the right saying we should have standard issue government firearms. We're saying that you have a right to purchase. And with healthcare, it's unbelievably expensive. It's so expensive that I can't afford it. I got it for Evita. She's pregnant. I got it for her. I still don't have healthcare. It's too expensive. And
to be fair, he could afford healthcare, but he's like, I'm a young, healthy guy. I don't have to. I don't want to, because it's really expensive. It's not worth it for us. Why would we do it?
It's very expensive. I don't think people understand. My kids your age, my daughter's husband's in the military, so they have TRICARE, and my husband's coverage covers until 26. But after 26, and once my oldest turned 26 and looked into how much healthcare costs, he's like, I can't afford it. And he's going to be a doctor. So yeah, he's got to wait till he's in residency to finally have healthcare coverage again, because these Obamacare plans are completely unaffordable.
Yeah, and it's important to keep telling young people that look at the most expensive things in your life: rent, healthcare, housing, you name it. The government is involved in it. Education. Every time the government subsidizes something, the cost of it consistently outperforms inflation. And when you look at something like cell phone plans, they've consistently gone down in price. So just talking about it and saying, look, all the left is trying to do is buy your votes. When they say we're going to forgive student loan, they're buying your vote. That's it.
Yeah, and when you get the free Medicaid or the free healthcare, your income has to be so low that you don't want to incentivize people to live below the poverty line just so they can get healthcare, and that's exactly what we do. You have to make so little money to qualify that means that people don't get married. That encourages fatherless homes, that encourages people to do side hustles and not work for higher paying jobs because they get these benefits, whether it's SNAP benefits or health benefits. They are incentivized to stay in the poverty class. And then then they can't afford rent. So, oh, the government comes in and subsidizes rent. Well, that makes everything unaffordable for all the rest of us because of government. It's such a spiral. And then there's so few beneficiaries, and the majority are penalized unless you finally, the Marxists win and they get this communist system, and then we're all equally miserable, and then we're Venezuela.
And I don't know if I told this story before, but during COVID 2020, 2021, when I was home in Wausau, I was working a construction job where if I decided to stop working because of COVID, I could collect unemployment, paying me more or almost more than actually working. This is the kind of ridiculousness that the government thinks is a solution to problems.
No, 100%. And that's why I think now we said you're running for Congress. I think having some younger people in Congress is a really good thing, because you're looking at things through a different lens. And we need it, because frankly, we've got a lot of old people in Congress, and we need to have folks that you guys are going to way outlive me. And for the next 60 years. So the tax policies, all the things that we do, you and your children, you're going to have to pay the price. And will there be Medicare? No. I mean, at the rate we're going, everything is going to dissolve. Like, our debt is outrageous. Our spending is out of control. Something has to change, and we've got to have younger voices in there saying, now someone's got to stand up for the future.
Yeah, it's just as simple as having representatives who actually have a stake in the future. Nancy Pelosi is 1,000,000 years old, doesn't care at all what happens to anyone in the country in the future, because you know what? She's made her $20 million. We need people who are going into office who are going to have to deal with all of the problems in the future.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar, she was negative. I just saw a tweet, like, she had no negative money, and now she has $30 million in assets. I mean, come on.
These people are just selling American taxpayer dollars. They're insider trading. They go in for the wrong reasons. They go in to say, oh, this sounds like a really cushy job where I barely have to work. I'll vote every once in a while. No, you're going in to represent your family, your community. You better take this so serious. I mean, the fact that these people will be gone early on a Thursday and miss a vote is ridiculous.
And even to those for all ages, like, all these programs, they are depleting Medicare. They're giving it to illegal or even newly minted people. They're letting, because a lot of those let into America through our refugee program, Somalians, they didn't adequately vet who they let in. And I've just recently read that Ilhan Omar's father was actually was let in as a refugee when he was actually one of the perpetrators. He was part of the groups that were actually causing, like, a lot of harm and chaos in Somalia. So we haven't been properly vetting who we're giving refugee status, and then once here, immediately lining people up for benefits, and just putting such a heavy strain on the programs that are meant to help the elderly, the poor. They are necessary safeguard programs. They're programs that, if you are a single mom, to help you go back to school and provide assistance so that you can provide for your family and you can become a proud tax-paying citizen with a job. These are all things that conservatives support, all Americans support. We want to have a safety net. We want to take care of our elderly. We want to the commitments that we've made with Social Security. We want to meet those commitments. But what we're discovering is that they're being robbed. They have been robbed. There's nothing but IOUs left where money should be, and it's been misspent and misappropriated. And that doesn't make you a bad person for saying that things have got to change.
Yeah, and our elderly people, especially in our state, I think it's a huge strain on our system, Social Security and Medicaid. But people bought into the system and they rely on it,
Yes.
and they deserve to get paid what they put in.
Yes.
And we have all these people who are coming here and taking advantage of us, and it's completely wrong. And it's a total defraudment of truly the next generation, because we're the ones who are never gonna, we're paying into Social Security, we're never gonna see it. We know that. And the abuse is really at the heart of it. The other thing, Scarlett, is a lot of times you bring these people in and they have nothing in common with with regular Americans. Somalians, I'm not saying that Somalians are bad people, but they have a different religion, they have a different culture, and there's something to be said about subsidiarity and wanting to bring in immigrants, if we're going to bring them in, who have shared values with the people who are already here. And so a good example would be when the Trump admin said, we're interested in bringing refugees from South Africa who are being abused by a explicitly racist system. These are white Christians in South Africa. Many of them, not even alive for apartheid. Some of them were, but I would say not everybody was involved in it. And the Democrats were furious at this, and it seemed like they were furious because they were white Christians, which is really, it's racist, but it's very telling, I think, of what the purpose of mass immigration is for the left. It's destroying the culture. It's creating incohesion. It's destroying the hegemony that we have here on purpose, so that they can in turn take power and control. Because when people are desperate, that's when you vote for Democrats. When people feel like our system is collapsing, that's when you vote for the Zohar Mamdani and the AOC. So they need us to be suffering and desperate in order for them to take power. And that's why they import the third world into our country. That's why they try and destroy any kind of cohesion, cultural, economic, or otherwise, that we have.
Well, they've written many playbooks where they make it very clear that you destabilize and then through that destabilization, you get control. So you cause the chaos, you cause the problems, and then you put so much stress on the systems that they start to implode. And then in that implosion, the revolutionary Marxists come in and say, oh, hey, see what capitalism did? When that's not at all the case, that it's not capitalism, it's the corporatism. It's the fact that we have that a lot of the American capitalist system has been, taken over by the government through subsidies, and politicians are bought and paid for by, wealthy, and then things aren't done fairly, that monopolies grow and then power corruption. So, and that's the whole swamp. That's what the Trump administration has been trying in the first term, and now, and in his second term, he's been trying to upend. And that means that sometimes, for the most part, Democrats, but even that there's some Republicans in there that don't want this swamp they are comfortable here because they have also become wealthy and kind of, so they're not as interested in disrupting the systems in order to bring us back to the place of our founding fathers, like where we want to have, I kind of think of it like the Frank Capra, we just want power to be with the people through our representative democracy. And we need to have good representatives there that are really looking out for the interests of the common man.
Yeah, and I think the main focus of any representative at all, whether it be a government or a governor, whether it be a state official or a national official, it should be shrinking the government. If you
Yes.
have a government that is big enough to where Somalians are stealing billions of dollars a year and nobody even notices it because it's a rounding error, there's a problem. So everybody should be focused on shrinking the power of the government. And I've said this one before. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I love Harry Potter, but Lord of the Rings is my big one. And
I love Lord of the Rings too.
nobody ever said You know what we need to do at the Ring? We need to come up with some common sense legislation on how to use it. No, you destroy it. It's too powerful, it's too big, and it's ripe for abuse. And that is the story of our government.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And there'll be those that when they have they're like, oh, we could use it for us, we could use it for good. But no, you're right. You've got to, that level of power corrupts anyone, and you have to get rid of it. And government has to go back to the people. I mean, Santa Claus doesn't drop off the money, every year. When people say the government should pay this, the government should pay that, the government is us, it's the taxpayers. And one way or another, they're going to get the money. In ways you won't even see. There'll be taxes on everything. There are so many taxes that you stay in a hotel and it's $99 a night, but then your bill is $200 because of all the taxes and the fees and this fee and that fee. Different states can have different taxes, but in one way or another, that get passed down to the consumer. And like your dad with air travel, like there's everything that costs more, there's a reason. And usually the culprit behind it is the government.
Yeah, and I think the scariest tax that people forget about is inflation. That's how the government pays the debts that they can't afford. They'll print money or issue more bonds. And it's the worst form of taxation because it affects the middle to lower classes. The people who are asset rich at the upper classes, inflation isn't as much of a big deal. For the people who are working paycheck to paycheck, inflation is the most detrimental tax the government can put on people. And that's what we're doing when we have these systems where we say, oh, you know what? We'll just make it work. Or, we just have to find money to give $250 billion to Ukraine. Well, who pays the bills? The middle and lower class. And frankly, everybody's sick of it. That nobody can afford anything. Evita and I can't buy a home. The average first-time home buyer is 40 years old. And I think the Trump administration has done an amazing job. Frankly, they've taken an issue that I thought would take his entire term, and we're already seeing headway. GDP is growing. Inflation is down. Unemployment is down. The average home price in America is down. This is unbelievable. And frankly, I couldn't be more impressed with how quickly the Trump administration has been able to reverse the 4 years of horrendous damage from the Biden administration.
The inflationary damage is not something that you can snap your fingers at and just get rid of. The flooding of money through COVID that is the inflationary pressure that we see now. Things cost more, and it takes time to reduce that. And so I think that they're working overtime, doing everything that they can to try so that average people can feel it in their back pocket, see okay, these costs are going down in that. And we'll see, I think, over the spring, as homes, people start again thinking about selling, buying. I'm seeing a softening in Wisconsin for sure, where more homes are coming on. And so we're going to wait and see about that. And Chairman Powell, replacing him very soon, that's hopefully going to have some positive effects. So what are the issues that Michael, that when you're out talking to people as you're running for Congress, what are the main issues that people will talk to you about? Because I know it's like when you're around in Wisconsin, people are not shy. They are not shy.
Especially in the Northwoods.
I care about this. What are you going to do about that? They're very polite, Wisconsin, nice, but people are not shy about saying, hey, this is an issue for me. What are you going to do about it?
The two biggest things I've heard are affordability and government being tyrannical. So a lot of people are concerned that we had an FBI for 4 years that was going after peaceful protesters and Latin mass Catholics, but even bigger than that, affordability. I've heard people ask about healthcare. Why is it going up? Why are houses so expensive? Why can't I afford what I did 5 years ago? And it's a tough answer. It's the Biden administration was just printing money left and right. And we're now just starting to feel the effects of that. And even despite that, we've actually seen a reduction in inflation. So it was like 5.8% at the average during the Biden administration. It's already down to in the 2% during Trump. Now, like you said, that doesn't mean prices are down. It definitely doesn't. So you need to wait for wages to come up, and they will slowly. But yeah, affordability is the number one concern for everyone I've talked to. And number two, they're just sick of having a government that's spying on them.
Yeah. And in your there's also, I know in Wisconsin, voter ID, voter fraud, that's always a big issue. Concerns about how election integrity are always big issues, and concerns about education. And because there's a lot of our property taxes fund education on top of federal spending and statewide spending. And what they see, their ROI, they don't like it. The scores, the reading scores, math scores continue to stay stagnant or go down while spending goes up. And then you've got the cultural issues that are happening in schools. So obviously with Moms for Liberty, we hear a lot about that. But I think the cost of insurance and housing, all of those things, those rank high, as well as safety, concern about crime.
Yes. Yeah. And I think this is where it's so important that when voters go to the polls, they vote down the ballot, because education, it's a state issue. You need a governor who's going to support common sense rules for education. I mean, for example, let's maybe have, if we're going to increase property taxes, at least maybe not have worse reading scores and math scores. Maybe then people could tolerate it. We need our national officials and state officials to be working together to solve these issues, because like you said, education is going downhill quick in Wisconsin. We have healthcare that's unaffordable for everyone. We have homes that's unaffordable for everyone. We have crime rates that are going through the roof in these Democrat-run cities. I mean, what was it? 2 months ago, we had a story about a roaming band of illegals stealing in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I mean,
Yes.
It's a nightmare. And
in Ozaki.
Yeah, this is why we need people who are all focused on the same thing, putting Americans first.
And I'll tell you the end of that story, because when I talked about that, because there were robberies in Mequon, Wisconsin, where I live, there on social media, a lot of folks on the left said, "Oh, you're fear mongering. You're claiming they're illegal immigrants." Well, they were caught, and it turns out they were part of a gang of illegal immigrants. And of course, that's not all over the news. But they were caught in Florida, and they went through Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and it was, again, a coordinated effort of young illegal immigrants. But again, that's not something you're going to hear on the mainstream news, and it's something we deal with. I was just looking at NPR, although I don't like to cite their polls all the time. They did say that in their polling, which was November 30th of 2025, 6 in 10 Wisconsinites said affordability was their number one concern as they vote in 2026. They want to see the prices of things go down, and they're concerned about the cost of housing, insurance, and just living their life, the cost of education for their kids. So I think you've touched on a lot of issues that conservatives need to face head on. We like to talk about safety a lot, and we're good at that. I mean, when it comes to safety, Republicans win overwhelmingly in polls. But when the number one issue is affordability and costs, we have to have ideas and plans, and we know what to, like, we don't want the government involved, but I think we've got to not shy away from being specific about what we want to do to affect this, and to educate people as to why things cost so much in a way that's easy to understand and not too complicated.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And Frank, I've heard it put, I think it was Albert Einstein. He said, if you can't explain it to a third grader, you don't understand it yourself. So whenever someone says, well, that's too complicated, you know, it'll take too long to explain, then you don't understand it yourself. Prices are going up because we have millions of illegal immigrants coming into the system who are getting money out of the system and not putting it back in. And then we have a government that is spending so much money that our dollar is losing value every single second. It's not complicated stuff. And frankly, every person who's throwing their hat in the ring to run for something needs to understand that. And number two, well, three, I think it's important to understand that the fight we're having, it is not left versus right, Republican versus Democrat. It's, are you on the side of good or are you on the side of evil?
I also wanted to add, like, but this is something Michael and I talk about a lot, but the need for individual appropriations bills. I mean, part of the problem right now is we have these massive spending packages with all of these earmarks and all of this waste. We don't, I mean, half the time, members of Congress who are voting for it don't even know 75% of what's in the bill. And we just had a military package went through with, of course, more money for Ukraine, like billions more. And it needs to be much more intentional so that we can actually hold our representatives accountable for each appropriations bill, instead of them saying, well, I can't vote yet. I mean, in the military bill, for instance, you had all of the stuff in there, including, you know, funding for Ukraine, but then you also have, you know, benefits for veterans, which, I mean, I support, you know, benefits for veterans and healthcare for our veterans. And so when you don't separate them out, it's impossible for members to discern, and it's impossible for the constituents to hold them accountable. So that's definitely something that Michael and I have talked about a lot, that he really wants to make a focus of his.
Yeah.
That's a really good and simple solution, because you're 100% right. They tie up a lot of other spending into military spending because they know that we've got to fund our military. We can't just, because if they don't pass a bill, then military members across the country, the world, will simply stop getting paid. And that's something you just can't do. So they intentionally tie up all this other stuff with it. It's the same thing with Medicare. They'll tie important budget bills that need to be passed to keep things going, to keep SNAP benefits going, and then kind of like the government shutdown. And I think you're right. If we just had individual, then you wouldn't have to shut down the government. You could get these major things paid for, and then you could actually go through and see, what are you funding in this military bill? Are there things that we don't want to be funding, like Ukraine, and pull that out? But then you wouldn't have all these largest bloated fat packages thrown in. And that's in every, like every state will do it. They'll throw in their little goodie, their pork, and that gets passed. And it's just, this isn't monopoly money. And I feel like that's how it's being treated. Our tax dollars are monopoly money. It's an endless fund, and there are consequences, inflationary consequences. And we cannot bring down the interest rate. Our interest rate is set based on the confidence that other countries have in buying our bonds. And the less confidence they have in the American dollar, the higher the interest rate. So we need to be stronger so that there's more confidence in purchasing our bonds, and then that interest rate can go down. But that can't be an artificial. That has to be based on confidence and the way that our federal system is set up.
Yeah, my favorite example of spending bills, every 5 years they pass the Farm Bill, of which 80%, more than 80%, is for SNAP benefits. Farmers receive none of that. Why is it called the Farm Bill if 80% of it is the SNAP benefits? Why not call it the SNAP bill? You know,
Yeah.
these are the things that the government packages together so neatly so they can get, you know, this side to tolerate some over expenses. And yeah, it's a nightmare. And when the government wraps all of these things in a nice little bow, they give the representatives the chance, well, are you going to vote to keep the government open, or are you going to vote to keep it closed?
There's two, like, I mean, obviously there's two problems with, or two reasons why we have all of these giant spending bills. One of them is obviously there's an incentive for adding in pork, and people want to get their things passed, but they know it won't be passed as an individual bill, so they like to add it on to others. But the other problem is that if you ask my dad and other members of Congress, former and current, they will say that the 1 year cycle is not enough time actually for all the spending bills, and that's why we had like this fear of a government shutdown like all the time.
Yeah.
And that if we actually had a 2 year cycle, there would be the time, scheduling wise, for Congress to actually have more individual bills, instead of all of these massive packages, especially toward the end of the year. So something to think about, but certainly something that needs to be addressed. And I think part of why it hasn't been addressed is, of course, there's an incentive for not having individual appropriation bills.
That's a good point, and I hadn't thought about that. I like those are another easy idea, that if every 2 years, like Wisconsin, the budget's every two. I can't imagine if the budget was every year. So much time and effort goes into debating the budget that you would never talk about anything else. And I think that's what happens in DC. Like, it's always about the budget, and whether or not, we're always over in debt, but hard to balance. I think there's some solutions that could help with all of this, so that it's not this constant hanging over, will you shut down the government? And that we could talk things through more. I mean, they can't, like Nancy Pelosi once famously said, we'll pass it and then we'll read it. I mean, who's reading bills stacked this high? Like, they have to have their aides read it and then give them the highlights, and they don't know what's in there. And I would venture to say that they've had a lot of NGOs and outside people write these bills, and then that's how you get some of the crazy stuff I see in education. You're like, why? How did this get in here? Well, it was part of that was part of an initiative that fell under the NIH or HHS or DOE, and it got funded. And it takes experts 6 months to go through and try and find all of this stuff. So, but we've been talking for a while, and that's been great. But I want to mention that, Evita, you are pregnant. This is your first. This will be your first child. You're 4 months. So how do you feel? How are you feeling? And how has your pregnancy, to both of you, how has that changed, deepened your relationship with God, with each other? And how has that influenced the way that you're looking at our country and the world?
Well, how I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm second trimester, fully into second trimester, so I'm not sick. I don't feel awful, which is great. And I can eat again, which is also great. And so that's nice. And it's not the greatest timing. So I'm due the first week of June. His primary is in August, which is the real election here, because we're a +20 red district. So the real race is going to be the primary in August. And so it's not the most ideal timing, but I don't think it's ever going to be perfectly ideal timing. And I'm mostly just really excited.
Yeah, and I think it puts everything into perspective. You can understand why you're doing something. Young people can sometimes have difficulty looking into the future, and the second you have a little one on the way, you immediately start thinking about the future. Like I mentioned it earlier, we didn't have healthcare until I found out that Evita was pregnant. I mean, it's these are the kind of things that they're life changing, and I don't even really understand the effects yet. I think it's something that I won't fully understand until that little baby comes out in June, and we're very excited, a little nervous, because who wouldn't be, but very excited.
Oh, it's very exciting. And your first child, like when my son was laid on my chest, it's just, it just like, it's, you'll never forget it because it's the love that you have and the feelings. It's amazing. And I think it's important to have more representatives that have young children because I think they're looking at the world again in a different way. Um, they're thinking about education in a way that this is going to affect my child. And if I don't do something, then this could mean that my child is not going to have the kind of education that I want or that I had. And you need that mentality in, I think, in DC. You know, we need more of it. I'm just learning that Carolyn Levitt's having a baby, her second baby as well. It's a girl. And I think it's wonderful that President Trump has young moms, young dads working in the White House because it's a different dynamic, and it just, I think it colors everything because you have people that genuinely, they really have a dog in the fight for the future because they have young kids and they want to pass freedom and liberty down to the next generation. They don't want to, like Reagan said, sit on the front porch and talk to their grandchildren about a time when America used to be free, prosperous, when we used to own homes, when we used to be able to go to the grocery store and have all these choices. I never want to wake up and find that we live in even a country that's like Canada, or that has some of what we have, but not the full spectrum of freedom and free speech. You see what's happening in the UK, where you can go to prison for speech, and America is just so blessed, and we have so much to fight for.
Yeah, and I think it really puts into perspective how important the family is. You know, we need, it's a sacred institution, and frankly, Charlie Kirk understood that as good as anyone. He told young people, everyone he could ever tell, he said, get married and have a family. And this is how you build the next generation that's going to really be better off than what we had. I mean, if every parent goes into every situation saying, how can I make life better for my kids, you'll see the country is going to turn around really quick.
Yes. And so you have been endorsed by Turning Point, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And as has Tom Tiffany. I know he was a speaker at Turning Point.
No, Tom's got so much going on in southern Wisconsin. I think he's staying busy with all the madness of Madison and Milwaukee. But we talked for a good while. He's a great guy. I hope he wins. I've said it on this show before, but if he wins and I lose, Wisconsin will be a better place. I know that.
How is his? Were you there for his speech at AmFest?
Yes,
Oh,
and it
it
was
was
amazing. So he gave the best Wisconsin speech ever, and he threw out a cheese hat. I think there were some people that didn't really understand what was going on. I did. Everyone from Wisconsin was cheering. He mentioned Quick Trip, the best gas station in the world. Buc-ee's is not even close. His speech was amazing, and you know, I really think what's going to push Tom across the line in Wisconsin is the young people. There's over 250,000 young people in Wisconsin.
Gen Z Republican voters. Over
Yep.
250,000.
Wow.
Who are going to come out and vote for Tom. But not only that, they're going to be knocking on doors for Tom.
Yeah, I was really excited to see that he was speaking there, and I thought his speech was amazing. And he was really like fight for Wisconsin. You know, fight for Wisconsin. We don't want to don't Minnesota my Wisconsin. Don't
And
Illinois
he said
my
that
Wisconsin.
before all of the Somalian fraud.
Yes.
He had a crystal ball apparently.
Yes. Yeah, I remember last year when I was on the Trump bus tour with him, and he was, the signs were "Don't Minnesota my Wisconsin." I was like, oh my, I love that. That's perfect. Because there were so many refugees, families that fled Minnesota to come to Wisconsin, and it's one of the largest growing. We have our largest growing Moms for Liberty chapters in Western Wisconsin, largest growing GOP in Western Wisconsin, because you've got so many people that have come across to say, like, it wasn't just about the taxes. It wasn't just about affordability. It was about the fact that speech and what was happening in schools, what was happening to their kids. And they were fleeing, a lot of them, for their children, because they wanted their children to have the education without the indoctrination. And it was just unaffordable and wackadoo crazy. Tampon Tim. Yes, Tampon Tim, because he put tampon dispensers in little boys' bathrooms, even in elementary schools in Minnesota. Which is ridiculous, but that's the kind of thing we're fighting, and that's what Wisconsin will become in just a Thanos snap if we allow it to happen. Like, they look how much money pours in from Minnesota and from Illinois, from Democrats, in order to influence, and it's always an uphill fight, but we have strong fighters like you, and we need a lot more to save Wisconsin in 2026.
Yeah. And I would just say, there's a lot of energy coming into 2026. I think you're going to hear a lot of Democrats saying, oh, blue wave, it's going to be just stay home. They're trying to get you to stay home so you don't vote. We can take back Wisconsin if we all just do a little something. I don't know what it would be. Maybe you can knock on doors. Maybe you can tell your neighbor about a great governor's race, or maybe just in your workplace, you can be unapologetically conservative. Just do something, and we will win back Wisconsin in 2026.
Yeah, a lot of ballot chasing, not just registering, but making sure that once registered, they fill out those ballots and get them in. And that means our hunters and our Christians. Like, these are two big groups that in 2024 that we really targeted, because they should, in every way we're in alignment, but it doesn't always show up. Young people, I think, Christians, and our hunters. If we could get and Trump voters, so we get all of them to show up, we're good. But it's a lot of effort, and there are communities, especially, and in certain areas of Wisconsin, where people can only vote once a week. It's difficult. It's not like in Madison, where they have ballot boxes on every street corner. It's where so that's the kind of things we can talk, like, that's the kind of things that we have to deal with. It's strategic. It's and that's what Turning Point is good at. It's not just the talk. It's not just the text message. It's the ground game.
Yep.
In Wisconsin, you got to have the ground game. Evita, that. Like, you've got to have those personal relationships. You have to, those face-to-face talks. You've got to put in that effort in order to win in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And that's something we're going to be doing. If I've heard a lot about, oh, I'm too young. I'll tell you what, at 25, I will be the hardest working person in any race in Wisconsin, and I will knock on more doors. I will shake more hands, and that's how we're going to win.
He's got the energy to do it. So
yes. All right. Yes. Well, this was a great conversation, and I look forward to talking to you guys more. I know you're going to be at our Moms for Liberty Legislative Day, and we're going to have a dinner, and then the next day we're going to be meeting at the Capitol, with getting as many Moms for Liberty members there and leaders to talk about how to affect change at the state level. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. And then I know
you have to send us an application, because now Evita is going to be.
Yes. Yes, we have a lot of chapters out there, and that's going to be my summer, fall traveling Wisconsin and getting out the vote and getting people registered and talking about the issues. So I will be out there a lot more. So I hope to see you. And then we've got our state convention in the spring. So that'll be a fun time in Wisconsin, but a lot going on. And then the big 250 celebration, which I know your dad is going to be doing a lot. But it's going to be a great time. I think there's going to be a lot of the 250 in July. It's going to inspire. It's going to inspire in Wisconsin and everywhere. And every state is going to be participating. So I know we're thinking about in Wisconsin, like, how are we going to be part of the celebrating America's 250th birthday, and probably a lot of cheeseheads.
Yeah.
Cream
All right,
puffs.
guys. Thank you. Congratulations on
Yeah.
baby. I already talked to your mom and congratulated her. I'm sure she's over the moon, your mom and your dad and your parents as well. So have a happy new year, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks,
You as well.
Scarlett.
Take care.
Bye. What a great conversation with Evita and Michael. And it was really long, which is great. There was so much to talk about. I got to talk about my home state of Wisconsin, of course. But I think in doing so, it reflects a lot of what's going on around the country and the future for 2026. I love the fact that we have young people running for Congress, throwing their hat in the ring. I thought they had a really interesting perspective about AmFest and very honest perspective about the beginning of it, which there was there's a kind of an airing of grievances, like I like to say. I still have to catch up on a lot of the speeches at AmFest, because while AmFest is happening, it's like in the heart of Christmas season. I was invited to go and to be part of new media there, but as much as I would love to be there, it's just right smack dab in the throes of Christmas parties and a lot of commitments that I have with my kids, family events, and I always prioritize that comes first. So at some point, I hope, like, maybe next year I could go even for a day, but sometimes it goes to the 21st or 22nd. That's just really far into Christmas. That can be a little hard. And then there's so many speeches and so many people I wanted to hear that it's something for me to listen to as I take down all of my Christmas trees. I'll have to do a video about, I'm a Christmas girl. I'm a girl who loves Christmas. I think someone counted over 40 trees in all, small trees, large trees, but a lot of trees, a lot of ornaments. I go all in on Christmas. I love it. So, I still have to see a lot of what happened, but I think that, like I said, what's important is the coming together. And one really positive aspect of AmFest this year is the CEO of Moms for Liberty, Tina Deskovich, was on a platform about getting out the mom vote. And that went really well. Moms for Liberty also had a booth the entirety of AmFest that went amazing, and a lot of conversations, a lot of networking, a lot of more members signed up. And I think the message that I know that I want loud and clear is to new moms like Evita who are pregnant, join. We want to get younger moms in the fold. Even if your kids aren't of school age yet, you're a mom. Even if we've got members that are dads, grandfathers, women who aren't mothers, but who care about the future, who care about American children, and want to pass down a country that is free, a country that prioritizes liberty, and that's what we do. So be sure to, if you are not a member of Moms for Liberty, and I should put this out there, that you need to join. And you can do so at momsforliberty.org, right here, momsforliberty.org, and easy enough to join and become a member. And follow us on X and all social media at moms4liberty. And be sure that you like and subscribe Moms for Liberty at Moms for Liberty on YouTube. Trying to grow our YouTube channel. And, they say YouTube is a male-dominated space. Well, hopefully can start to change some of that. So in the spirit of, because we started off talking about AmFest, I thought I would end by playing for today. And if I can find, I have not yet found the breakout session on getting out the moms vote. I'll look for it real fast. But what I do have on hand is the main stage the main stage panel conversation with Rachel Campos-Duffy, who I love and adore. That's Evita's mom. And they talk about families. And I loved this panel, and I want to share it with everyone. And this will be the last podcast of Unleashed for 2025. So Happy New Year, everyone. Looking forward to an amazing 2026. And I wish you all joy and happiness in 2026. And God bless all of you. So Happy New Year. Hope you are enjoying a wonderful time celebrating with family. I know my plans are to cook a wonderful feast in my pajamas. Our family, we're all getting together in our pajamas and having a Happy New Year at home with our extended family. We're going to play games. We're going to eat good food and just be together as a family. And I'm really looking forward to that. So see you all in the new year. And we are going to have so many fabulous shows, so many things happening with Moms for Liberty into the new year. It's going to be epic and amazing. So stay tuned and always keep on top of everything on our social media. Again, at moms4liberty for social media, and go to our website, momsforliberty.org. All right. Bye, everyone. And let's watch this. Actually, I shouldn't say bye just yet because I have got to first load up. All right. And here we go. And this is, again, Rachel Campos-Duffy and Sean Duffy.
Wow!
Moderated by Riley Gaines.
Woo!
You see every day, huh?
Not every day. It's great to be here.
It's special. It's special. So excited to spend some time chatting with both of you. Goodness, there's about 1 million things that I could ask each of you respectively about your career, what you've got going on. Secretary Duffy, I could ask you about your controversial take of no more pajamas in the airport.
Well, that's a good one, right?
There's definitely team dress up, team pajama we've been hearing.
Exactly. things that I'm genuinely curious about. I know the audience is too, that feel relevant for the moment that we're in. But beyond all of the policy and politics, you guys and your story as a couple, as parents, I think it is so remarkable. It's one that you don't hear very often. We have a video. If you are here and you haven't heard their story, we have a video we're going to throw to it really quickly, and then I want to ask you guys about it.
This is the true story.
True story. Picked to live in a house
And have their lives too.
to find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real.
I was nervous because, I don't know everybody from all the shows, and I was kind of nervous that I'd meet these people and I won't know their names.
My destination is Westport Station. I bet you the other castmate has
the clue.
All right. Thank you.
Who's that dude? Who is that? That's Sean.
Hi, Sean.
How's it
How you
going?
doing?
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
And John, I'm Sean. Sean, nice to meet you. You guys. Are you our next guy? How you doing? Eric? Yeah. All right. How's it going? I'm Sean. Sean. Are you our fifth person? When they didn't know who in the hell I was because they hadn't watched my show at all. And that is Rachel. You're Rachel. Yeah. I'm my own. Rachel's a cool girl. She was very bubbly, very, very spirited, and I like her right off the bat.
Here you go. He seems nice. He flirts with me all the time.
I don't know what we'd do without her. Just crucial to our success here.
Sean flirts with me all the time. Part of me thinks he likes me. I told Cynthia, and she's like, duh.
And we went to sit and listen to you piss him out, and we're trying to earn a living. We're trying to bring home the bread and butter in here.
Wait till it gets under your skin.
Stop getting fresh with me.
I want to have this relationship with her.
He's like such a great guy.
I've enjoyed my time with Rachel, and the little bit of kissing that may have went on. It's been a good time. And so that's it.
Sean. Here's our on-camera kiss.
I think it's amazing that I have the meeting between me and Rachel on TV. Most people don't have that opportunity to look back and say, oh my God, that's the moment that I met my wife.
Let's bring her out. She's got a little special guest with her. Rachel, where are you? Oh my goodness. So this is the baby. This is Evita.
We're the first reality TV couple, the first ones to, like, again, the only ones to have all these kids.
9 kids. No one beats us.
Can I explain that for a second? So MTV used to be a big thing right back in the day, and so we
In the 90s.
We met on a reality TV show called The Real World and Road Rules. And by the way, you can tell Rachel hasn't aged one bit at all since back when we met. And if you saw in the video, they gave me her bag, and I say I've been carrying her bag ever since.
True.
First day we met.
I think the best thing about that video when I watched it the first time is your laugh sounds exactly the same then as it does now. Man, there's been a lot of life lived in the time that some of those clips were recorded to now. We saw a video of you with your baby daughter, Evita, who's here today, and she just had a very exciting announcement. Do you want to share?
Yeah, well, Evita, that little baby that you saw in that video, is our very first of our 9 children, and she's pregnant, so we're excited. And her husband, my son-in-law, who I love like a son, is one of 2 people that have been endorsed in his race for Congress in Wisconsin, and he'll be speaking on Sunday night. So we're excited.
That's pretty awesome.
But if anyone tells you you can't find true love on a reality television show, don't believe them.
Was there like a specific moment for you guys early on when you realized that this wasn't just a relationship, but something that you wanted to build a life around?
Well, listen, we got to spend 3 weeks together traveling around the country. We went to New Zealand. And then on the show. Then we were able to spend time after. And I spent a lot of time pursuing Rachel. She spent some time rejecting me. But here's what's interesting, Riley, is after she rejected me for a little bit, she was doing a speech in Milwaukee and then was having to fly through Minneapolis where I was going to law school. And she stopped over for a layover, and I took her out for breakfast and a cup of coffee. And we sat there for 3 hours just talking. Yeah. And in that conversation, she said, "I think I love you. I think I'm going to marry you."
It's true.
Which for any 26-year-old man will freak you out, right? I was like, wow. But it was great. We did get married.
We've been together ever since. We've been together ever since.
That's special. And so now here you are. Yeah, that deserves an applause. And now here you guys are with incredibly demanding schedules in your professional careers, public service, media, family life. How do you two intentionally prioritize each other and your marriage and protect that in the midst of all the chaos?
Wow, it's such a great question. And we both have always had this philosophy and we've stuck to it. And by the way, at every moment, it's not perfect. I mean, you're trying to, you have to recalibrate because things get off kilter. And we've done that, like when Sean stepped down from Congress because it was just getting to be too much and we needed to refocus on our family. But we've always said that the relationship between he and I is the foundation of this marriage. If we are not focused on each other, if we're not prioritizing our marriage, we're not the only ones that suffer. The entire unit suffers. And so that's something it's a constant reminder. But we've made sacrifices. As I said, Sean stepped down from Congress when things got too much. I had a Spanish show called Vox Noticias that I started before Sean got into office, and it just got to be too much. And I just said, I can only do so much. I've got a husband, I've got a family, and so I did not renew that contract, even though I loved the job and I wanted to continue. So it's just a reminder about sacrifice, that those things have to happen if this is going to be the priority.
And I would say I have the privilege of working for, I think, the greatest president that this country has ever seen, Donald J. Trump. He's amazing. He is the greatest boss I've ever had. And I love working for him. And I love my department. And I'm trying to tackle every single problem that I can to make travel better for the American people. And it's an honor. It's an amazing honor to serve, and especially with this president. But my most important job is to be a good husband. My most important job is to be a good father. And so I think all the time, and Rachel and I were talking about this morning, I think about what are we doing to spend time together? Because we're really busy. And so I plan.
He's the thinker.
I plan every single trip that we're going to go on. Every time we're going to go back to Wisconsin, I book everyone's flights. I coordinate the travel. Rachel and I have to spend time together. So when are we going to spend time together? How are we going to, whether it's 4 days or a week together, where we can get away and recalibrate and rekindle. And travel stresses Rachel out. And so I got to force her, cajole her, elbow her.
I just think about the packing and the unpacking, and I get just frozen. And that's like another example of that balance between the sexes. And, Sean's really good at planning. If it was up to me to plan, I would get overwhelmed and the trip might not happen. Sean takes charge of that, and I really appreciate that.
And just another point on that, I get to meet a lot of people. And if you think about what is the most important thing in life, and again, I love my job, I really do, and I love your job. But if you talk to people who are near the end of their life and what they value, what was important to them over the course of their life, it wasn't a bill they passed, it wasn't a congressional race they won, it wasn't the career they had. The most important thing to anybody near the end of their life is their family. Like what kind of family did I build? Those are the people who are with you at the end of life. And by the way, we have 9 kids, which I wouldn't send any of them back. Some days I would send some back, but usually I wouldn't send any of them back. And I think having invested in that. I think those truly are the things that matter in life, and that's why we put time into it.
I often in my job run into a lot of young producers, especially men and women. But in particular, I end up bonding and talking to a lot of the young women because a lot of them are in the dating world. They're looking for me I'm kind of a matchmaker, so a lot of people come to me and go, hey, can you help match me with someone? I love doing that. But I always tell them, because these are really hardworking, hard-charging girls that are really great at their job. These young women are awesome. But I always remind them, and the men that I meet as well that are young, at the end of the day, as Sean said, your boss, this company is not going to be holding your hand when you're on your deathbed. It's going to be your husband or your wife, your children. That's your legacy. And that's why we have always been very much attracted to this movement, to Turning Point USA, because Turning Point USA, and Charlie Kirk in particular, has always said, get married, have kids. That's been our story. And now that we're at this stage where we actually have grandkids, I can tell you it's worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of Charlie's.
Yeah.
That was one of his, honestly, I'll speak personally, the pieces of advice that he spoke to that I took really to heart, especially following his assassination, was, look, having kids matters far more than any sort of career or personal success you could have in your profession. And so you just spoke to that, but how did becoming parents change the way you think about success and purpose and now even your careers?
Well, so can I just take a sidestep on that? For all the young men in the room, I think obviously culture's changed since I got to meet Rachel on reality TV. We didn't have cell phones then. I think it's so important that young men are unafraid to ask them respectfully, but ask them out for a cup of coffee. Don't be afraid. Ask him out. Ask him to dinner. When Evita's husband, my oldest daughter, wanted to take her out for the first time in high school, he at the start wanted me to send her out to him in the car, and I'm like, bullshit. Have him come to the front door. We're going to meet him, look him in the eye. And he did, and he was great. He's like, and by the way, after that, he's like, when my little daughter is going to go on her first date, nobody's going to pick her up in the driveway. He's coming to the front door to meet me. But you don't find love in your basement playing video games, right? You find love by getting out there and finding a girl you want to ask out, again, very safe, a cup of coffee, maybe dinner. And again, young women, don't be too mean to a guy you don't want to go out with. Let him down nice, right, if you don't want to. Or take a chance and say yes, right? Yeah. Say yes, and who knows, you might like him. Rachel said no at the start. I had to pursue her. And she finally saw the brilliance of
that's interesting because there's so... It's interesting because now so much dating happens on your phone, and I'm not opposed to, online dating. I think it can work, but I think the danger of it is you just kind of are scrolling through and you have all these things in your mind and set up in the way you do it online that, I only want a guy who's, over 6 feet, and anybody under 6 feet, isn't even going to show up on your screen. So I think it's really important that you do give it a chance and that you don't just say one date. It took me 3 months to figure out that I actually really wanted to be with Sean and date him. So he was pretty persistent and it worked out. So, he says, yes, give him a chance, but also, us women, give it a chance.
Give it a chance.
Yeah.
And Rachel, and continuing to speak, I think specifically to young women, there's this narrative out there that you have to pick one or the other, family or career.
Yeah.
Clearly, you guys have done both.
Yeah.
What has that looked like for you, I think especially in your role as being a mom? How have you been able to balance the two?
It's such a great question. It's sort of like the most important question that a lot of women are asking themselves is before they think they're going to have kids or even right after they have them. Look, my journey is not traditional at all. I was an at-home mom for 14 years. And then actually out of financial need, I started to work part-time. And luckily I had a boss who was very flexible and I was working for the Libra Initiative. And then I eventually ended at Fox News, where Fox News is the most family-friendly company you can ever imagine. So I've been very blessed in that way. But if you look at people like who was the CEO of Sheryl Sandborn, the CEO of Facebook. She would tell women, as soon as you graduate, put your foot on the gas pedal, go, 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 go. Mine is just the opposite. I think you really, as a woman, need to prioritize your love life. And it's kind of the advice that a lot of, women's studies departments might, not like to hear that from me. But I think prioritizing your love life, yes, getting your education, yes, getting your career, but always knowing that your family is the most important. So I've taken breaks. So when I have a baby, I take a break. What I just told you happened with my job just now. I love my job at the Spanish show for Fox News, but I had to make that decision. And what's interesting is they've polled women who make professional sacrifices for the sake of their family actually poll higher in happiness. And it absolutely makes sense because they understand intuitively what's most important.
100%. Now, Secretary Duffy, you alluded to the fact that the world that you're raising your children in, which I don't think we've explicitly said it. Can you say, you talked about booking everyone's travel. How many is everyone for you guys?
Yeah, so we have 9 kids.
And 2 are married.
And 2 are married, and we're going to take them too. My oldest is 26. Our youngest is 6, she has Down syndrome. She's the little light of our family. She's wonderful. Yeah. By the way, there's no other Downs kids in her school because all of them have been aborted, which is shameful because she is the most wonderful little baby, and we would have never made a different decision. And every one of the kids love her dearly. But can I tell you this? We didn't have any money when we started, and every baby that would come would kind of stress me out. I'm like, oh my gosh, got another baby coming. I got to be the one who supports. And Rachel wasn't working. And we just had faith that something was going to happen, that we were going to be able to pay for the babies that we were having. And every single time, what's the Spanish phrase that?
So we believe in providence, and it's true. But there's a Spanish saying that says every little baby is born with a loaf of bread under their arms. And it's absolutely true. I feel like
every single time something would happen where we were able to have enough money to pay for each additional child. And again, we have 9. So at Thanksgiving or Christmas, if I have 5 at home or 6 at home, my house feels really empty. I feel like, where is everybody? It's like, I wish I had more. Someone's going. And for most families, that's a lot. But it is so much fun to have all of them home for the holidays. And the spouses. And then we all get together back in Wisconsin for the summer. And it is the best time that we have is with all of us together.
Well, I will say I love when pictures of Valentina and the president pop up on my timeline, and watching him interact with her, it's really a beautiful thing. But Secretary Duffy, you said you're raising your kids in a world that you guys didn't grow up in terms of social media and constant connectivity and public attention. How do you guys talk with your children about social media and about fame and about personal identity?
So first off, what's great with so many kids is your first child, you're a first-time parent, right? You've never done it before. You're new at it, and you make mistakes. And then with the next one, you make less mistakes, and then less you learn as you go through with all these kids.
You're saying we got do-overs.
We got many do-overs, that's right. So the first ones got cell phones earlier. They were younger. But the further we've gone back, we've now, I have a 15-year-old who still doesn't have a cell phone. No. They
hold off as long as you can. Hold off as long as you can.
We think about when they start to drive. That's when they have to be able to communicate if something goes wrong. So that's when we think about the cell phones. But it's challenging because social media is so consuming for this generation, and what you put out and how many likes you get, and so we try to talk about a little more reality and less about what social media is and is not. I don't know, Rachel, what you're...
I just think that, yeah, we learned our lesson. We keep going further and further out before we give them a phone. It's tough once they start driving. Obviously, you want them to have the phone for an emergency, for directions. But the more you can hold off on that, the better. Remember, we had a discussion once on the couch, Will Kane and I, at Fox and Friends, and he was like, well, I'm just worried that my kid is going to miss out, right? If he doesn't have a phone and everybody else. But I think it's more it's like you're giving your kids back their childhood. You're giving them back. I love seeing on you see all these videos coming back of high schools in the 80s, when people actually talked in the hallway and, at their lockers. I mean, I do think we've lost something. And I'll tell you what, when Charlie Kirk came out with this book about finding a 24-hour period in your life where you're completely disconnected with it, I think that is one of the most powerful, important messages in the world, honestly.
I agree with that. That's something that, following Charlie's assassination and this book, which you guys have done a fantastic job at Fox News over the past week, and talking with Erica and explaining the vision of Turning Point USA and the book and everything. It's been fantastic. But even me and my husband, that's something that we have certainly started to implement in our own household. We've talked about your faith as well. It's clearly very central to your family and how you conduct yourselves in your professional roles. What advice would you give, especially to the younger people in this room, about keeping Christ at the center of their marriage or their relationship, particularly in this culture that so often pushes faith to the margins?
Well, I mean, I think when Sean and I got married, and this is sort of Catholic theology, I'm sure it's true for a lot of other Christian faiths. I mean, there's 3 people getting married. It's me, Sean, and God. And I think that what's wonderful about a Christian marriage is the permanency of it. I mean, there's something, a lot of people get caught up in the, all the aesthetics, especially with Instagram of a wedding. But the reason for the ritual is that it's a really important thing, and it's a permanent thing. And so I think it saved our marriage that we got married in a Catholic mass with God right between us, because, we fight. When people tell you, we never fight, like we hear that sometimes, and we're always like, they're going to get divorced. Because fighting is just part of being married. But these fights don't end in the end, because our marriage is forever. That's the vow we took. And so that just never happens. That just never is the conversation.
We actually will fight about this conversation sometimes about marriage, because I think sometimes we put a rosy picture on marriage is always wonderful every single moment of the day. Well, if you've been married, it's not. Anything that gives great value takes hard work, right? And we put a lot of hard work into our marriage. I love Rachel, and as you go through hard times and good times, but you work through that. And some people, I think, might give up. They give up too early. They don't put the work in, the effort in, and think that it might be rosier if they just give up and go to someone else. And I don't think that's necessarily
the reason he says we have this fight about this is I feel like he's right in that he says we need, it's hard work. You have to fight for your marriage. But I also think that the culture doesn't talk enough about how great marriage is. And so that's the debate we're always having.
That's true. What
do we tell people about marriage? It's both, and it's great.
But I think with regard to faith, it's for us, again, we got married with God. Pete Hegseth, at the end of your show, I always used to say on Sunday, go to church. We go to church every Sunday. We attend church on all the Holy Day of Obligations. We pray virtually every single night. There might be a few that we miss. But
we pray before the kids go to school.
We do pray before the kids go to school.
The church, the Bible, church tradition, it just being in a marriage and a family that's Christian is a roadmap. I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how we could get through our marriage if we didn't have that. How many of you have looked at Erica Kirk and said, how does she get through? If she didn't have her faith, how would she get through it? And so I'm just so grateful that I entered into a marriage in that way. And I'm really grateful to my parents. And I'm really grateful that his parents raised him as a good Catholic, because that has helped our marriage.
We were at the Fox News lighting of the tree a few weeks back, and the Cardinal was there, and he's walking through, and I had my little baby, I think at the time she's 8, 9 weeks old, and he's walking through, and we're sitting there, and you say, "Wait, Cardinal, can you bless this baby?" And it was.
I'm like, you got to get to work, Cardinal. You got some work to do here. Yes.
Did Dana take your baby too? Was Dana walking around with her baby?
No, that was that was not her baby. That was a different baby.
Okay.
She's around here somewhere, all 11
Well, I was
weeks
like,
old.
don't take the
running
baby.
around.
Yeah.
I know, it's really special time. Now, Secretary Duffy, you mentioned working for the best boss. We've seen some recent family-friendly initiatives to implement in airports. Can you speak to what some of these will be?
So first off, my number one job is to fix the air traffic control system. That's job number one, to make sure we update a very, very old system. Copper to fiber, analog to digital, 90s to 2026 is what we're doing. Brand new radar and radios and voice switches. So that is my first job, and that's what I focus on. Bringing in more air traffic controllers. I want people to be less delayed, less canceled, and more safe.
And you have had more air traffic controllers.
We do have more. We've increased air traffic controllers through the academy by 20%. But with that, I also think that when we travel, we should also bring our best selves. And our best personalities and best spirits, and bring civility. And so I've asked people to be nice when they travel, and most people are really nice when they travel, but some people aren't. I've asked people to dress a little more respectfully. Maybe to all of you, when you travel home, no pajamas or slippers on the airplane.
More North Pole elves, less South Pole elves.
That's right.
Yeah.
But in regard to the terminals, I thought, how can we make this better? And so a lot of families travel. I want more play areas where if you have a child with you, a lot of parents will just give their child an iPad or a phone. Wouldn't it be great to have more play areas for children? There's a conversation about where can a nursing mom go to nurse? I want more nursing pods for mothers who are choosing to nurse their babies, and nursing pods that are clean and are actually functional. Mm-hmm. And then I want to, the liberal media mischaracterize this, but a little micro workout area. If you're walking through and you want to do 3 or 4 pull-ups, a couple push-ups, don't get sweaty, don't have a full gym workout, but a little micro gym where you can actually do some exercise. And then I'm open to anyone else's ideas, and I want to make the travel experience better in America. And how do we do that? This is my first foray into making suggestions, but we can take information from all of you and our airports to then improve the American experience. By the way, we should have the greatest travel experience in this country as compared to the rest of the world. And that's what we're working for under this president.
Riley, would you use a gym and do a micro workout? I mean, you're a pretty athletic girl.
Oh, heck yes, I would. I love that video of you and Secretary Kennedy, which remind us, how many pull-ups did he do? And you, by the way.
He did 20, and he's like 72. And I did 10.
And our daughter did 12.
13. They all I was a low performer.
To be fair, he broke his shoulder, what was it, 3 years ago?
I'm 54. I did 10 pull-ups. And I did real pull-ups, by the way.
I'd like to see one between these two.
Yeah.
I know who will win that
no,
one.
I totally would use this. The amount of traveling, and you're right, delays and cancellations that you go through in an airport, this seems like a fantastic use of time in a layover or whatever the setting might be. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I think that what you see with President Trump is there's no problem that's too big that we won't try to fix. We are going to fix the problems that this country has. We're going to lean into them. And so what happened is each department was passing off the problems to the next secretary or to the next administration, and they never got fixed. And you want your government to work for you and fix the problems and make this country great. And that's what President Trump has directed the whole cabinet to do. Which, by the way, can I make one last point about our cabinet? I've never been on a cabinet, so I have nothing to compare it to, but our cabinet gets along. President Trump, we all defend each other, we all work together, we all try to collaborate together, we try to help each other. And if you're going to have an effective government that's going to change America forever, you need a cabinet with the leadership of a president to make that happen, and that's what you have with this cabinet. And I couldn't be more grateful to serve with all these great men and women and an amazing president.
I will say this too. Last weekend, I aired an interview that I did with all the cabinet spouses, something that had never been done before. And by the way, the ratings were through the roof for it. The cabinet spouses are just as great. So, just saying, they were awesome ladies.
I love that. Last thing for you guys, take us through a Duffy family Christmas. What are some of the traditions? What's y'all's Christmas day look like?
Well, the first thing is we cut down our Christmas tree, right? And Rachel and I we always do it every year. This year, Rachel thought our house was as big as the White House, so she wanted to pick this gargantuan Christmas tree. And I had to be like, no, it's too fat, it's too wide. Anyway, so we get a Christmas tree, we cut it down, we put it up.
Real tree, no fake tree.
Wisconsin. We decorate it, we light it. It smells fresh, it's wonderful. And then, I'll let Rachel go.
Well, we also make sure that Advent, we really are very intentional about the seasons of the year. And so in our family, the Advent calendar really, matters to us. So we have a room in our house where we all gather every night to pray. And so our candles are there, and every night we turn down the lights, and the kids light the candles, and we sing and play music. We play O Come, Emmanuel every single night
by the way, it's
throughout.
a great version, the Enya version of.
He loves the Enya version, so we play the Enya version.
Pull it up a screen.
But we prepare our home in Advent. The decorating, all of it is very intentional. These traditions, these rituals, because we're preparing our hearts for Jesus's birthday. And so we really try hard, whether it's nativity scenes, we want to make sure our children fully understand exactly why we're having Christmas. It's not snow, and it's not snowmen and reindeer.
Yeah.
Saint Nicholas is a saint. We emphasize that part of it. And we really want to enjoy the reason for the season, which is Jesus.
And by the way, on Christmas morning, all of our kids have to stay upstairs. They can't go down to the Christmas tree, and so if we're tired,
they stay on the stairs.
Yeah, so it's torturous for them.
He makes them sing before they can come get their presents. They are all on the stairs, and they have to sing "Away in a Manger."
And we sing horribly, so it's pretty rough. But can I give a front run for everybody? So NORAD usually tracks Santa. Okay, have you been to the website for NORAD? But just so you know, the FAA under DOT controls the civilian airspace in America. So we are working for this year to make sure that there is an FAA DOT website that's not from 1994, website that will track Santa this Christmas Eve. So stay tuned for that announcement.
Stay tuned.
Santa Tracker coming to DOT.
He did not want. Was NORAD's run by who? Is that?
Well, that's the Pentagon.
The Pentagon. Oh boy, Pete might get involved.
Tail number. Tell Pete he's fine. Excess fine.
I love
taking
that.
Santa back.
We're watching it in our household. Thank you guys for everything, for your service, both of you. I know you're headed back today. She'll be on Fox News tomorrow. Everyone make sure you're tuned in. Just very grateful for each of you and how you lead your family. It's an inspiration for all of us here, so thank you.
Thank you, Riley, and congratulations on your beautiful baby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. I love that. I wanted to quickly share something else. That was a great conversation with two fellow Wisconsinites. Loved that. I loved how they talked about their Christmas traditions, and very, very relatable, and just the nicest couple, nicest people. It makes sense that their children are so nice and patriotic and service orientated as well. So I found this video of Michael real fast, and I want to share that as well. So here we go. Add this to stage. I'm going to show this. Okay.
Young conservatives as he wrapped up Turning Point USA's AmericaFest.
Erica, I cannot thank you enough for your strength, your grace, and your kind words of support for this administration and for me personally. I will fight alongside you and President Trump and every patriot in this room to defend the country that we so dearly love. Only God can promise you salvation in heaven, but together we can fulfill the promise of the greatest nation in the history of the earth.
Our next guests hope to bring Charlie's legacy to Capitol Hill as young conservatives running for Congress, and they spoke at AmFest too. Joe Mitchell is running in Iowa, and Michael Alfonso is running in Wisconsin. They join us now. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thanks so much for having us.
So I got a chance to catch you guys' speech and panel at Turning Point, and y'all really talk about also how Charlie impacted your run for Congress. Michael, I'll start with you. Tell us about the mood there at Turning Point USA and how the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk inspired you to run for office.
You know, just like you said, we saw a family member die when Charlie got shot. And the message of Turning Point was very simple. Don't let age or experience be the detraction that keeps you away from running and making a difference. And we're not going to let that stop us, just like Charlie didn't let us stop him. And, you know, I just have to say, all the politicians, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, they all have lots of experience. And what has that gotten us? That's not what matters. What matters is character and conviction.
Joe, there is this new generation of young people that are getting involved in politics. And many people think, you know, Charlie Kirk was a part of that. Obviously, the president. How are you going to get those young people, kind of harness that energy and get them to show up for a race like yours?
Lawrence, I met Charlie September 10th of 2019, and he helped me start an organization called Run Gen Z to help young conservatives run for state and local office across this country. And so I talked to Charlie in August of this year, and Charlie told me we need a new generation of leaders in Washington, D.C. And so that's why we're running for this race. And you saw all of that motivation at AmFest this weekend. People are excited, they're pumped up, and they're ready to come out for the midterms in 2026.
Such a good point. Mike, I want to play this clip of Nicki Minaj. She was a surprise guest. No one expected her to come out. And this is what she had to say about Gavin Newsom.
You had some fun words for Governor Newsom. I have to read these tweets because they're amazing.
Oh, Gabby Poo, it only gets worse from here for you, buddy. It's the end of the road for you, my love. Get on the nearest jet ski and let that beautiful hair blow in the wind. Imagine being the guy running on wanting to see trans kids. Haha, not even a trans adult would run on that. Normal adults wake up and think they want to see healthy, safe, happy kids. Not Gav.
So we're seeing something, Michael, that is different in the culture. Some of the icons that normally would align themselves with the left, they're turning. Why?
Well, you know, I think it's the Democrats have left a lot of people in the dirt. You know, in Wisconsin, the seat I'm running for, it used to be blue. And the Democrats have gone so crazy that it's now one of the most red districts in the country. And also, I think Gavin Newsom's is just particularly awful. I mean, as a college kid during COVID, I remember being locked in my dorms while Gavin was telling us to wear a mask and going to the French Laundry in his free time.
It's such a good point. He was living his life, but he didn't want the other folks that are out there, us average day Americans, to do the same thing. Joe, I'll end with you. With all of these young people that have showed up to this movement, did you leave inspired for the future?
I did. Well, thank God, Lawrence, for Erica Kirk and the Turning Point team. They did such a fantastic job. 30,000 plus people coming to this conference. It was so spectacular. Charlie is looking down from us from heaven, and he's smiling because such a great job they did. So I'm hopeful for the future. Michael and I both spoke yesterday. We're very excited for 2026.
Here, here. Michael, Joe, good luck in your races. We'll have you back. Thank you so much.
Yes, so I wanted to mention that Michael Alfonso received an endorsement from Turning Point as well. I had mentioned that Tom Tiffany, who's running for governor of Wisconsin, had received a Turning Point USA endorsement, but Michael Alfonso had also received an endorsement from Turning Point USA, and it was a big deal and was platformed at Turning Point USA and was part of a panel discussion about the influence of Gen Z. And amazing. It was great to see. And then, of course, we saw his in-laws, Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, and Rachel Campos-Duffy, who is the host of Fox and Friends Weekend and the mother of Evita Duffy-Alfonso. So congratulations to Michael on that endorsement and being platformed and then on Fox and Friends. So great job. I just think that it's wonderful that you have the younger generation. My son is also 26, and I'm so happy to see that there are those that are committing to running for office. It's a very difficult thing to do. And as Evita said, there'll be a primary in August, and that's no easy task because this is a +20 Republican seat in Wisconsin. So there are a lot of folks that will be vying for this congressional seat. And so I think that can be difficult. Primaries are hard. And then after that, to run in the election for November. So I always enjoy my conversations with Michael and Evita, and I look forward to more of them. And so I thought it would be great to highlight these important news. And I didn't even know, he's so humble. I didn't even know that he was on Fox and Friends. So I did my research and I wanted to make sure that I highlighted that. So again, so now this is the end. And again, Happy New Year. And look forward to a wonderful 2026 and having more conversations and talking about things that parents care about and that everyone can care about, that in depth. We don't have, like, look at this over 2 hours. We take our time, talk about issues, talk about things that you might not be hearing about in the mainstream news, and have fun doing it. So thank you and Happy New Year, everyone. Bye.